Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Streaming Charts with Dan. Tomorrow's box office show, Charts with Dan, will be up in the morning. We're doing this show about once a month, which is a good time to collect some data and talk about whatever's going on in the world of streaming. On the last episode, we talked about One Piece on Netflix and whether or not it would get a season 2. I said that the data pointed to a very likely renewal, and in fact, One Piece is getting a second season on Netflix. Today, we are going to look at about a month's worth of streaming data. We're also going to talk about Star Wars Ahsoka. There were several stories about its ratings and how it fell amongst other Star Wars shows, so we're going to look at the numbers that we have through 4 episodes. That's the only ratings data we have right now through Nielsen is 4 episodes of Ahsoka. But before we do that, I wanted to talk about a survey as sort of our main story about the different streaming services, and it was done by a company called Whip Media. Whip Media has done a survey of thousands of streaming consumers for 5 years now, and it measures things like perception of value and customer satisfaction, and it had some very interesting results this year as regards not just the big streamers like Netflix and Disney Plus, but also some of the smaller ones like Peacock and Apple TV Plus. So I wanted to go over some of the findings in that Whip Media survey, and let's start with overall satisfaction. So this is literally, are you satisfied with this streaming service? And they polled for about the top 8 streaming services. Max, which was number 1 on last year's survey, remained number 1 as far as overall customer satisfaction, but fell 6 percentage points to 88%. Hulu was number 2 with no change in customer satisfaction from last year at 87%. Disney Plus was at number 3 but fell 3 points in satisfaction to 85%. Apple TV Plus was at number 4. It actually rose 5 points in customer satisfaction to 81%, and it's up 19 points as far as the satisfaction score from 2 years ago. Paramount Plus was number 5, unchanged at 79% from last year. This was a big headline. Netflix, number 6, falling 3 points to 77%. It's down from a 90% customer satisfaction rating and the number 2 overall streaming service just 2 years ago. That is not news that I think is going to be welcomed at the Netflix offices. Amazon Prime Video was number 7, up 2 points to 74% satisfaction, and Peacock was actually up 6 points to 74% satisfaction, but that still kept it down at number 8, last as far as the streaming services that were surveyed. It did, however, have the largest increase in customer service satisfaction this year. When discussing value, bang for your buck, are you getting what you're paying for? Disney Plus, Max, and Hulu all hover around 80%. About 80% of respondents felt that they were getting what they paid for, but they all lost ground in the last year. Disney Plus dropped 5 points and Max dropped 7 points, with Hulu dropping just 1 point over the last year. Peacock and Apple TV Plus were the only major services to actually gain points when it came to value. Satisfaction ticked up 5% for each of them. Paramount Plus and Netflix also lost 1 point each. Whip also asked about which services respondents were most likely to keep subscribing to. Prime Video, Hulu, Max, and Disney Plus are clustered pretty tightly around 80%, with Netflix at above 75%, along with Apple TV Plus. Paramount Plus and Peacock were both hovering just below 75%. Prime Video, Apple TV Plus, and Peacock all picked up points. They gained ground as far as whether people were likely to keep their subscriptions, with Peacock leading the way at a 5% increase from 2022. Max, Disney Plus, Netflix, and Paramount Plus all lost ground, with Max losing the most, a 4% decrease in likelihood to keep the subscription. When these streaming wars started, everybody wanted to be the Netflix killer. They wanted to be the streaming service that would knock Netflix off of its perch, and it seems like that part has succeeded. Because when you look at Netflix's indispensability score, the number of respondents that said that that service was absolutely indispensable to them, in 2021, 41% of those surveyed said that Netflix was their most indispensable streaming service. That has fallen to 27% this year, and yet no one has definitively stepped in to fill the void. So I would say that the different companies did succeed in knocking Netflix off its perch, but nobody has replaced Netflix. They're all now just jockeying for the same position. Disney Plus hoped to leap to the top of the streaming wars with its original programming, but in the last year, it lost 7% in both quality and variety of original programming, according to this survey. So these Disney Plus originals are not huge audience pleasers, progressively more so over the last year. And 30% of the people that were surveyed by Whip Media said that they plan to spend less on streaming services in 2024 than they did on 2023, and that many of them are going to start using more FAST services. Those are those ad-supported streamers, things like Pluto TV and Freevee that you don't have to pay for, but are supported by advertising, much like something that used to exist. What was it called? Oh yeah, television. And when you look at these results as a whole, it paints a pretty clear picture that the major streaming services, the ones that are at the top of the heap, are all losing ground. And while the smaller streaming services like Peacock are gaining ground, it's pretty much just a race to the middle. And so this idea that one of them is going to step out from the fray and become the overall market leader seems to be less and less likely. And it seems more and more likely that at a point where all of these different services want to be able to cut back spending or would hope to have perhaps declared themselves the winner, they are going to have to compete more and more to maintain their market share. Keeping in mind that all of this is happening when a large chunk of their consumer base is saying that they plan to cut down on streaming service spending at a time when almost every single streaming service is raising their subscription prices. There was news that was released just a couple of weeks ago that Netflix is reportedly considering raising their subscription after the conclusion of the actors' strike, possibly because of the terms of the strikes and the fact that they may have to pay out more to writers and actors. But still, the fact that you had a revenue model that was based on underpaying your writers and actors speaks to probably the instability of that revenue model to begin with. And when you go back again to the beginning of this, going back to 2019 and 2020, almost every single one of these companies, the way that they were able to leverage these billions and billions of dollars of debt spending was to say that by 2024, 2025, 2026, the market would stabilize a bit and they would be able to start turning a profit. That's happened for a couple of them. But again, even if you're Max and you're one of the streaming services that is getting very close to turning a profit, if you are continuing to lose ground, well, how long is that actually going to keep up? So the instability in the streaming market continues, and I think that this was a very interesting survey, and I hope that Whip Media continues to do these surveys because going back and seeing the historical trends, it is very clear that yes, there is no one clear leader, but this is an industry that does kind of require a clear leader in order to pave that road to profitability, and I think that we're going to see the real-world ramifications of this struggle for many more months and probably years to come. So that was a look at the Whip Media survey, and you can also find those results online and read the entire report if you want. It is a very interesting report. Let's look now at the actual streaming charts to see what people are watching at home through various different streaming services, and we will start with the iTunes chart, as we usually do here on the show. The number one rental as of yesterday, October the 8th, was The Equalizer 3, which is available for purchase and premium video on demand, those higher price rentals. In second place was Barbie, also available for purchase and premium video on demand. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is currently only available for purchase, is at number 3, followed by Talk to Me at number 4, which is available for purchase and rental. The Nun 2 is also available for purchase and premium video on demand at number 5. No Hard Feelings is at number 6 for purchase and rental. Gran Turismo is at number 7 for purchase and premium video on demand, as is Blue Beetle for purchase and premium video on demand. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is at number 9, available for purchase and rental, and then available for purchase only is a 3-pack of the Equalizer films. It is worth noting that all of the movies on this chart are summer and fall films, and this is something that's relatively new when you look at iTunes. Just to the last 2 or 3 years, really since theaters closed back in 2020, these rental charts used to be some recent blockbusters and some other movies that might bubble up due to, other movies coming out or TikTok or something that's, kind of trendy, but we are seeing more and more that the iTunes charts are dominated by recent movies that came out just within the last couple of months, and this has been a big shift in the way that Hollywood does their release structure. Looking at the top 10 on Amazon Prime Video as of yesterday, at number 1 is The Boys spinoff series Gen V. At number 2, Totally Killer, the 80s themed slasher movie that debuted just this past weekend. At number 3 is The Wheel of Time, which is just wrapping up its second season on Amazon Prime. At number 4 is Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, one of only 2 non-original programs here on the top 10 list. At number 5 is the MGM Plus original series Billy the Kid. The Chosen Season 3 is the other non-original original program on the top 10 list. Then we have the Amazon Prime original movie A Million Miles Away at number 7. The Amazon original series Wilderness, which is a 6-episode series from the UK starring Jenna Coleman. At number 9 is a documentary called Kelsey. And here's the thing that I respect about documentarians. It's something that I don't think that I could ever actually stomach, is the idea that when you start making a documentary, you never really know how it's going to turn out. Sometimes events don't quite happen the way that you want them to. Your movie doesn't turn out as interesting as you think it will, or you have to pivot halfway through. But sometimes lightning strikes and you get what I like to call documentarian's luck. And this happened to the producers of Kelsey twice over. The documentary is about Jason Kelsey, who is a center for the Philadelphia Eagles, and during the year they were filming Jason Kelsey, his team went to the Super Bowl, and he played in the Super Bowl against his brother, Travis Kelsey, who's a tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's lightning striking once. And then, right around the time the documentary was released on Amazon Prime, Travis Kelsey started dating perhaps the most famous person in the world, Taylor Swift, which gave this documentary a whole bunch of free publicity. So this is a lightning strikes twice kind of documentarian's luck for Kelsey, and you can see it here at number 9 on the Amazon charts. And finally coming in at number 10 is the hit summer series, The Summer I Turned Pretty, which wrapped up its second season a few weeks ago. Let's turn now to the top 10 on Netflix, and we have about a month's worth of data to get through. Let's start with September the 4th through the 10th. This was the second week that One Piece was in release, and in its second week, it moved up to number 1 overall worldwide on the Netflix charts as far as views. 19.26 million views in week 2 for One Piece and over 145.7 million hours watched. In second place was Dear Child, which is a German series about a young girl who disappeared. Virgin River Season 5 took the third place spot with 8.95 million. It will return later this year for more episodes. At number 4 is You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah. At number 5 is the Netflix original series Who is Aaron Carter. The Choose Your Own Adventure rom-com Choose Love stayed at number 6 with just over 7 million views in its second week. At number 7 is A Day and a Half, a Swedish drama about a man who takes extreme measures to see his daughter. Top Boy Season 3, the final season of the show and the third season produced by Netflix, debuted in 8th place with 5.65 million views. And then rounding out the top 10 were 2 films not produced by Netflix, The Croods and The Grinch. Both got around 4.1 million views. Moving on to the week of September 11th through the 17th, Dear Child moved up to the number 1 spot overall in the Netflix charts with 15.37 million views. Love at First Sight debuted in second place. This is a rom-com about a couple who meet each other on a plane but then lose their contact info. It stars Ben Hardy and Haley Lou Richardson. One Piece Season 1 slid down to third place with another 9.98 million views in its third week of release. Virgin River Season 5 was at number 4. Burning Body debuted on the chart at number 5. It's a crime series out of Spain about a murdered police officer. At number 6 is the Netflix movie Once Upon a Crime, followed by Erengard, The Art of Seduction, which is a Danish film about a man hired to teach a young royal the art of wooing young women. You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah falls to number 8. Spain's Rosa Peral's Tapes, a true crime doc about a woman in prison for murder, comes in at number 9. And Who is Aaron Carter rounds out the top 10. For the week of September 18th through the 24th, Love at First Sight takes the top spot with 15.17 million views. Sex Education Season 4, the final season of the hit comedy series, debuted with 12 million views. Dear Child drops down to number 3. Jane John is in 4th place. This is a Netflix original film from India about a mother-daughter duo who attempt to cover up a crime. The second season of the Netflix ripped from the headlines true crime doc Murdaugh Murders is in 5th place with 7.63 million views. Spy Kids Armageddon debuted in 6th place with 6.74 million views. Then One Piece Season 1 at number 7 with another 6 million views total. The movie In Time comes in 8th place with 5.73 million views. Then The Black Book, which is a film from Nigeria about a man seeking justice after his son is jailed for a crime he didn't commit. And rounding out the top 10 is another Croods movie, The Croods: A New Age, with 5.5 million views. And finally, we have the latest available Netflix chart. This is for September 25th through October 1st. At number 1 is Nowhere, a film from Spain about a pregnant woman who finds herself alone and adrift at sea inside of an empty shipping container. That movie got 23.79 million views in its first few days of release. Reptile comes in second place at 17.74 million reviews. It's a crime drama starring Benicio del Toro as a detective investigating a murder that may or may not involve Justin Timberlake. Alicia Silverstone co-stars in that film as well. Sex Education's at number 3 with another 13.38 million views. Forgotten Love is at number 4, a Polish film about a man who loses his family and then his memory. Well, that's a tough time. At number 5 is the Australian romance film Love is in the Air at 11.67 million views, which actually seems like it should have been the movie about the people meeting on the plane, but whatever. At number 6 is The Black Book. At number 7, Spy Kids Armageddon. At number 8, The Croods, A New Age. At number 9 is Overhaul, a Brazilian movie that sounds a bit like Fast and the Furious. A truck racer down on his luck turns to a life of crime as a getaway driver. And at number 10 is Love at First Sight, the movie that I think should have been called Love is in the Air, but I guess Love is in the Air also has something to do with a plane. There's a lot of plane-based romances on Netflix right now, I guess is what I'm getting at. We have so much more to break down, but before we do, I'm going to thank the sponsor for this episode. Today's show is brought to you by Stamps.com. There's a chill in the air and the leaves are beginning to fall, which means that if you're running a business or planning to send holiday gifts to loved ones, it is time to start thinking about holiday shipping. I know they will be here before you know it, and you don't want to get caught unprepared. Stamps.com has been helping people and businesses like you save time and money for 25 years, and it can help you get ready for the steadily increasing shipping that comes with the holidays. Stamps.com is your own personal post office wherever you are, because all you need is a computer and a printer. Plus, with the Stamps.com mobile app, you can have a post office on the go. You can easily schedule pickups on your Stamps.com dashboard or on the app, as well as order all of your shipping supplies. And if you sell products online, Stamps.com seamlessly connects with every major marketplace and shopping cart. Using Stamps.com, you can also get huge carrier discounts, up to 84% off USPS and UPS rates to help your bottom line, and they'll help you find the cheapest and best shipping option for you. And you don't have to fight any holiday crowds or spend hours waiting in line, because your post office is right at your fingertips 24 hours a day. No lines, no traffic, no waiting. Be prepared for the holiday rush and get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code Murrell for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter code Murrell. There was no change in the most watched Netflix series and movies of 2023 or the most watched Netflix series and movies of all time. So let's move now to the Nielsen data. Now, this is a bit different from Netflix. It is US only, and it is also about a month delayed. So we don't have the latest numbers. We get them about a month later, but it does encompass many different streaming services, and it's the best look that we have as far as how these different movies and shows all stack up against one another. Our first chart goes back to August 14th through the 20th. Let's look first at the top 10 most watched streaming movies in the US. Heart of Stone topped the chart at almost 13 million hours watched, followed by the debut of The Pope's Exorcist on Netflix at almost 10 million hours watched. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 continues on the list with another 7.2 million hours watched, followed by the Super Mario Bros. Movie on Peacock at 6.4 million hours watched. Cocaine Bear hits the chart again, this time on Amazon Prime Video at just over 5 million hours watched, followed by Despicable Me 2 at number 6, The Monkey King on Netflix at number 7, Disney Plus's Moana, which is on this chart more weeks than not, returns at number 8, the original Despicable Me comes back on the chart at number 9, and Transformers Rise of the Beasts on Paramount Plus rounds out the top 10. Going to the top 10 most watched streaming shows for August 14th through the 20th, Suits continues its phenomenal run, 47.2 million hours watched on both Peacock and Netflix, easily taking that number 1 spot over Netflix's Painkiller, which came in with 18.6 million hours. Bluey on Disney Plus is at number 3, NCIS is at number 4, Netflix's The Lincoln Lawyers at number 5, Grey's Anatomy is at number 6. At number 7 is the Netflix docuseries Depp v. Heard, which debuts with 11.7 million hours watched, just ahead of the HBO/Max original series Ballers, which was recently licensed to Netflix. It comes in at number 8 with 11.6 million hours watched. Cocomelon's at number 9, and Only Murders in the Building is at number 10. Moving on now to August 21st through the 27th, the top 10 movies were led by You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah, which debuted with 8.2 million hours watched in the US, followed by The Flash on Max with 6.5 million hours watched, perhaps the most people that have watched The Flash so far. The Monkey King moves up to number 3, almost in that number 2 spot. The Pope's Exorcist is at number 4, Heart of Stone moves down to number 5, The Super Mario Bros. Movie is at number 6, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is at number 7, Hulu's Vacation Friends 2 debuts at number 8 with 4.1 million hours watched. Moana hangs around at number 9, and Amazon's The Black Demon, about a family versus a shark on an oil rig, makes the top 10 at number 10 with just over 3.9 million hours watched. Looking at the most watched streaming shows for August 21st to the 27th, Suits is at number 1. Remarkable consistency here. 44.3 million hours watched. Netflix's Who is Aaron Carter debuts at number 2 with 17.2 million hours watched. Staying in that third spot, but just barely, is Bluey with 17.1 million hours watched, followed by Grey's Anatomy. And then we have the debut of Ahsoka, which was actually 2 episodes that debuted that first week. At number 5 on the overall most watched chart at 13.8 million hours watched total. NCIS is at number 6. Ballers is at number 7. Cocomelon is at number 8. Netflix's Untold is at number 9 with 10.5 million hours watched. And The Lincoln Lawyer rounds out the top 10. Moving on now to August 28th through September the 3rd, and the most watched streaming movies for that week. You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah is at number 1. Big George Foreman, which didn't really make much of a box office impact, debuts at number 2 with 6.9 million hours watched. The Flash slips to number 3. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is up to number 4. Love Again, another movie that didn't make a huge box office impact, is at number 5 with 4.8 million hours watched. Despicable Me 2 and Moana are at 6 and 7. The Big Short hits the list at number 8, followed by Arrival at number 9, 2 new arrivals there. And then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is at number 10 with 3.5 million hours watched. When we look at the most watched streaming shows for August 28th through September 3rd, again, Suits is over 40 million hours watched, easily topping One Piece, which debuts as the number 2 most watched overall streaming show at 21.8 million hours. Who is Aaron Carter is at number 3. Bluey is at number 4. Grey's Anatomy is at number 5. NCIS is at number 6. SWAT returns to the chart at number 7. Cocomelon's at number 8. The Big Bang Theory returns at number 9. And The Ultimatum on Netflix returns to the chart with a new season at 9.3 million hours watched. And let's move now to the most recent Nielsen chart that we have, which covers September 4th through the 10th. And the most watched movie for that week was the debut of the remake of The Little Mermaid at 22.9 million hours watched. This was one of the biggest debuts for a streaming movie this year. We will look at those numbers in just a couple minutes. Love Again is at number 2 with 5.6 million hours watched. Then we have Snitch on Max. Don't Worry Darling, which is on Max and also now Netflix at 4.9 million hours watched. You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah is at number 5. Arrival's at number 6. Woody Woodpecker, streaming on Netflix, is at number 7. Despicable Me 2 is at number 8. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is at number 9. And Moana sticks around at number 10. And looking at the most watched streaming shows for September 4th through the 10th, Suits remains tops, 39.3 million hours watched. Virgin River, which debuted its new season, is at number 2 with 32 million hours watched. One Piece stays in the top 3 with another 23.1 million hours watched. SWAT's at number 4. Bluey's at number 5. Grey's Anatomy is at number 6. NCIS is at number 7. Cocomelon's at number 8. The Big Bang Theory is at number 9. And Gilmore Girls returns to the chart at number 10. And because this is the most recent chart, I also want to look at something that I calculate called hours watched per available episode, because the most watched shows, well, that's total hours watched. So those are shows that have multiple seasons, hundreds of episodes, up against shows that have one season or maybe are in the midst of a season and have a very small number of episodes. So we can also calculate this looking at total watch time divided by the number of available episodes. And when we look at it this way, One Piece had the most views per available episode. It had 8 episodes available, that full 8-episode first season, and that averages out to 2.89 million hours watched per episode. Following behind is Ahsoka, which has 4 episodes available through the Nielsen data we have thus far at 1.92 million hours watched per episode. Dear Child is at number 3 with 1.4 million hours watched per episode, and then Who is Aaron Carter is at number 4 with 1.11 million hours watched per episode. Amazon's The Wheel of Time, which to that point had 12 episodes available in its first 2 seasons, is at 715,000 hours watched per episode for the week of September 4th through the 10th, followed by Special Ops Lioness on Paramount Plus at 712,500 hours watched per episode, Netflix's Virgin Rivers at number 7 with just over 600,000 hours per episode, followed by CoComelon at number 8, Only Murders in the Building, which was in the midst of its 3rd season with over 300,000 hours watched per episode, and then Suits rounding out the top 10 with almost 300,000 hours watched per each of its 135 episodes, which is pretty impressive. We don't see shows with that high of an episode count on this list very often. I mentioned that The Little Mermaid had one of the best debuts as far as its first week on the chart of any movie this year, and let's look at those numbers. The movie that had the best debut of 2023 was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which racked up 37.8 million hours watched in its first week on the Nielsen chart, followed by Avatar: The Way of Water at 32.3 million hours watched. Then we have A Ghost on Netflix, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on Disney+, and then You People on Netflix, which rounds out the top 5 at just over 26.2 million hours watched. Then we have Netflix's The Mother, followed closely by The Little Mermaid. It's the 7th best debut for a film in its first week on the Nielsen chart this year. It beats out Minions: The Rise of Gru, which hit Netflix earlier in 2023 and debuted to 19.7 million hours watched. Then Murder Mystery 2 on Netflix and Extraction 2 on Netflix. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Ahsoka. We only have streaming data available for 4 episodes through Nielsen. Even though it just wrapped up its season, we have to wait this kind of delayed time to get that data. So we will look at the entire first season as far as the total viewer numbers, probably on the next episode of Streaming Charts with Dan. But let's look at what we know through 4 episodes and how its viewership stacks up against other Star Wars series on Disney+. Let's look first at total watch time for the live-action Disney Plus series, except for The Mandalorian, because Nielsen wasn't doing streaming reporting when The Mandalorian Season 1 aired. So starting with The Mandalorian Season 2 and going through the other live-action series, of course, Ahsoka only has 4 episodes of data, so it is going to be at the bottom of this list because all of these other shows have a full season's run, but we can see where it compares through 4 episodes. Currently, it has 29.58 million hours of watch time. That's behind both Andor and Obi-Wan Kenobi, which had around 70 million hours of total watch time for their entire runs. Then we had The Book of Boba Fett at 83 million hours, The Mandalorian Season 3 at 139.75 million hours, and then the easy winner here, The Mandalorian Season 2 at 181 million hours. Now, there are a couple of caveats when we're talking about The Mandalorian, because as I mentioned here on the show, Nielsen does not separate out watch time by season. So technically, the data that I have for Mandalorian Season 2 and Mandalorian Season 3 could include watch time for people that are going back to watch old episodes. And I'm sure that does account for some of the watch time that we're seeing here, but I don't think it is a substantial portion for a couple of reasons. Number one, when you go back and look at the streaming charts, The Mandalorian does not pop up ahead of the season premieres for each season. So if there was a lot of rewatching that was going on, you would think that The Mandalorian might show up on the streaming charts maybe a week or 2 ahead of the new season debuting. That's not what the data shows. And also, The Mandalorian generally does not hang around on the streaming charts for very long, really long at all, after the season is over. So again, if a lot of it is rewatching or people that are catching up, you would think the show might have a bit of a tail after the seasons are done. The Mandalorian pretty much drops off of the charts after these seasons wrap up. So that says to me that yes, while there is some rewatch data in this season data that we're looking at here, it's not necessarily a significant enough portion for me to throw out The Mandalorian altogether. Total watch time, though, isn't really a fair metric or useful for us right now in trying to figure out how Ahsoka is doing. So let's look at a couple that are a little more equalized. First of all, let's look at total watch time through 4 episodes, and we are going to throw out The Mandalorian here. So this is for shows that have 1 season, which is basically every live action show except for The Mandalorian. And you can see that through 4 episodes, and this is in millions of hours, Obi-Wan Kenobi had the most watch time of any Star Wars show at 44 million watch hours, followed by The Book of Boba Fett at 33 million, then Ahsoka at 29.58 million, well ahead of Andor, which had only 18 million hours of watch time through 4 episodes. So, yes, Ahsoka is doing better than Andor, but it is trailing the Book of Boba Fett a bit, and then significantly trailing Obi-Wan Kenobi through its 4 episodes. Now, the release structure was different. Some of those put out 2 episodes, like Ahsoka. Most of them just put out 1 episode in its first week, so we'll see if that data normalizes over time. This next metric I think is the most useful, and it's hours watched per available episode, because it allows us to normalize the data even a little bit more and could maybe put Ahsoka on a little bit more even footing as far as its other shows. And when we look at hours watched per episode, Andor is in last place with 5.86 million hours watched per episode. There was even a week or two where Andor didn't make the charts. I don't even have data for how the show did that week. Ahsoka right now is next to last as far as hours watched per episode at 7.4 million hours per episode through its first 4 episodes. Now that number could go up because if people started watching the series more, and the buzzier episodes from what I could tell were in the back half of the season. So if viewership does pick up as it reaches its conclusion, then this hours watched per episode number could very well go up. So this is still very tentative. It is still though right now trailing behind Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett, which had nearly identical hours watched per episode numbers, 11.83 to 11.88. And then The Mandalorian, again, probably boosted a little bit by people going back to watch previous seasons. The Mandalorian Season 3 is at 17.47. The Mandalorian Season 2 is at 22.63. And again, this to me suggests that rewatchability isn't necessarily a significant chunk of the data, because The Mandalorian Season 3 has a sizable drop-off from Season 2, even though you have a whole extra season's worth of backlogged episodes that could be baked into that Season 3 data. I think generally what we are seeing, and it's something that we saw with the Marvel shows as well when we were looking at Secret Invasion, is a cooling of enthusiasm on the part of viewers when it comes to these Disney Plus shows. Nothing is charting as high as The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian is drawing fewer and fewer average views and total views from Season 2 to Season 3. And again, this is probably of concern to Disney. It takes us all the way back to this survey that we did at the beginning of the show, as far as people saying that they don't like the value of Disney Plus's original programming or the variety of it. And it seems like we're seeing that here in these numbers. And creatively, I think this is probably something that Disney Plus is going to want to address in the very near future. So that is a look at Ahsoka and its ratings, and of course I will keep track of those numbers and we will do a final season breakdown once we have all of that data. But let's wrap out the show by looking at some of the yearly and all-time numbers on the Nielsen streaming charts. First of all, these are the most watched streaming movies for 2023 through September 10th, and there's really not a whole lot of change. The top 5 remain the same. Moana's at number 1, Avatar: The Way of Water is at number 2, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is at number 3, You People's at number 4, Encanto's at number 5, and A Man Called Otto is at number 6. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, though, is right behind A Man Called Otto at number 7. It's new to the chart this week. The Mother drops down 1 spot, as do Minions: The Rise of Gru and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Extraction 2 drops off of the chart altogether. Looking at the most watched original streaming series for 2023, so these are non-library shows. These are shows that debut on these various streaming services. Bluey is at number 1, Cocomelon's at number 2, Ted Lasso's at number 3, Jenny and George is at number 4, and The Night Agent is at number 5. That's all unchanged from last episode. You is at number 6. The Lincoln Lawyer moves up to number 7, bumping The Last of Us down to number 8. Outer Banks to number 9, and The Mandalorian down to number 10. Keeping in mind with The Last of Us that it was, unlike these other shows, a hybrid show. It aired, yes, on the Max streaming network, but it also aired on the HBO broadcast platform. So what we're seeing here on these streaming charts is not inclusive of everybody who watched the series. Looking at the most watched library streaming series for 2023, so these are shows that ran on different networks but are now licensed or running on different platforms. Suits, of course, is number 1 at 614.3 million hours watched. It came on strong this year and rocketed all the way to that number 1 spot. NCIS is at number 2, Grey's Anatomy is at number 3, The Big Bang Theory is at number 4, and SWAT is at number 5. The Walking Dead is at number 6 for now, but Gilmore Girls is surging up the chart at number 7. Heartland drops down 1 spot to number 8. Supernatural re-enters the chart at number 9. It dropped off just a few weeks ago. South Park drops to number 10, and New Amsterdam drops off the chart altogether. There was also some movement on the, I guess you could call it all-time streaming chart, but really it's 2020 to present, as long as Nielsen has been tracking shows and movies through their rating systems. When we look at the most watched library streaming series since 2020, NCIS, Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds, and Supernatural remain at numbers 1 through 4. But Suits has broken into the all-time top 5 in really just the matter of a couple of months. At 614.3 million hours, it looks to be gunning heavily for Supernatural's spot there at number 4, but then it'll have to join the 1 billion club to advance higher in the ranks. Heartland moves down to number 6, The Big Bang Theory moves down to number 7, and Gilmore Girls moves down to number 8. The Office and Schitt's Creek remain the number 9 and 10 most watched streaming series since 2020. And then looking at the most watched original streaming series since 2020, CoComelon remains number 1 at 1.6 billion hours, but Bluey has moved up to number 2 with 787 million hours. Overall, the number 5 most watched series since 2020. Ozark moves down 1 spot. Stranger Things moves down 1 spot. That pretty much covers just 1 season of the show. Manifest is at number 5. Cobra Kai is at 6. The Crown is at number 7. Virgin River, because of its new season, moves up 1 spot to number 8. Wednesday moves down 1 spot to number 9. And Bridgerton stays at number 10. And that does it for the streaming numbers on this episode. I've got a busy schedule both on the channel and off the channel in the next few weeks, so I'm not exactly sure when I'll be able to do another streaming charts, but don't worry, it will be full of data whenever I am able to do it, and I always keep track of news stories and interesting things, so hopefully we won't miss anything here on the show. Thank you so much for watching and spending part of your day here with me. Be sure to check out the description below for more about our sponsor, Stamps.com, and stay tuned right here on the channel for more movie news, reviews, box office charts, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.